how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
You
Dude,
know?
I'm just sitting up here smiling because just hearing you say that, it reminds me so much of E.T. Eric Thomas, one of the great speakers out there as well.
Yeah.
And somebody, he said he was at an event and the guy said, we need you to bring your A game. He's like, A game? He said, I ain't got no B game, no C game. All I got is an A game. Like,
That's it.
hearing you say that, like, just really made me think about that because basically that's what you're saying. If somebody hires me for their event, hires me to speak at their school, district, corporation, what have you, I'm bringing my A game, 100%.
That's it. And I'm preparing, right? I'm
Yeah.
preparing. Like I always tell my son, it's better to be prepared and never have an opportunity than have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Ooh, that's so powerful. All right, everyone, we are super excited to have Dr. Reggie Wright Jr. to share his story, his journey, his heart, his passion with our viewers and our listeners. Dr. Wright just recently received his PhD, not EDD, PhD from Liberty University. And he did that in the year 2023, just recently, and he's super passionate about what he's doing in his life and in his career. He's from the great state of New Jersey. He's well over 6 feet tall, has played professional basketball overseas. Dr. Wright is a well-renowned speaker. So we're going to get all those golden nuggets from Dr. Wright as it relates to that as well. But Dr. Wright, thank you so much for coming on the show, my brother. What's going on in your life and in your K-12 career right now?
Oh man, thank you for having me. It's an honor, it's a privilege, brother. Thank you for this collaboration, this opportunity to jump on your show. Reaching out means a lot. You know it means a lot. So I don't even have to tell you.
Yes, sir.
You already know. So man, grateful to be here. But yeah, this has been a journey, man. Just I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to go into these schools, whether it's middle school, high school, or higher ed, and really just be able to educate and empower scholars and the educators alike, man. So just grateful for the calling that God has given me. I talk to students and educators about cultivating the conditions for academic success and positive character development. And that's really important because I feel like in schools, we want students to excel in terms of academic achievement, but I also think it's just as important to talk about character.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't think it should be this or that. I think it should be this and that.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I try to go in there and really impact and empower both the students and the educators to understand how can we help cultivate these conditions. There's certain conditions, certain factors that will help students and educators be successful at what they're trying to accomplish. And that's so important to me. Yeah,
that's awesome. I started this show because I want to highlight people like yourself that are really making an impact, and not just traditional people, right? We have principals. I'm a principal. We have teachers. We have counselors, all those type of people. But also, I really feel like it takes a village to, help raise our students and our children. And so when you come in and you're looking at our students through a different lens. And obviously, you have a background in K-12 education, but it's a way to really kind of connect with students and staff in a different way from somebody like myself that's a principal. So how does that look? Like, I mean, what made you get started and really focus on character development? Because it is needed.
Yeah. I think for me, like, it was ingrained in me from my grandmother. So, everyone probably for the most part that comes from an inner city context can think about someone that probably invested in them, poured in them, whether it was a coach, a teacher, a grandma, an aunt, a cousin, an uncle. But for me, it was my grandmother. She was an educator herself for 35 years.
Wow.
And we're talking about my grandmother stepped into the picture and said, I'm going to raise this baby.
Mm.
My mother got pregnant with me at 19 years old, gave
Okay.
birth at 20.
Okay.
So my grandmother was just finished raising her two kids because my mother and my uncle are only a year apart.
Wow.
So my mom was 19, my uncle was 20.
Okay.
She probably feels like, whoo, she's, brushing her hands like,
yeah,
I'm good. Now I get to enjoy it. And she's 40 years old at the time.
Wow.
She's like, now I get a chance to enjoy, my 40s. 40s is the new 20.
Sure.
Then here comes this baby. So we talking about during the 80s and 90s, where there was so much going on in inner city context, but my grandmother had expectations and standards that she set. And one of them was that when you go to school, like, your character is important. Absolutely. How you carry and conduct yourself is a representation of who you are. It's a representation of our family.
Absolutely.
And you need to represent well. And she meant that with everything within her. And I knew that. I believed it, so it was like, I was one of those kids that went to school where it was like, hey, like, I don't want to get in trouble, not because I'm afraid of the principal or I'm afraid of the police. I don't want you calling my grandmother. Like, please don't call my grandmother, because I do not want that smoke.
100%.
Yeah. So, I really think it came from her. Like, she instilled certain values, certain ethics, and certain principles, and it was non-negotiable. There was no negotiating with her. It was like, this is the standard. These are the expectations. I need your best. I want your best. Anything outside of your best is unacceptable. If you give me your best and your best happens to be a B, I'm okay. And she was consistent, right? Like, you think about the value of somebody being consistent in life, consistent as a parent, right? Absolutely. So it was like in the summer months, just thinking back to the summer real quick, most of the time in the summertime, kids would take the summer months off. The end of June, July, August, kids was just, they go outside, they play, they ride their bikes, they play football, flag football, two-hand touch, you play basketball, you go to the park and the playground. Especially during the 80s and 90s, right? Everybody was hooping in the playground.
For sure.
My grandmother had a schedule, bro. She had a schedule. You're gonna wake up, you're gonna do yard work, then you're gonna come in, you're gonna have like a late breakfast, like a brunch. You're gonna do school work for like 3 hours. We're gonna take a nap because we had to get up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Wow. And you know how it is when you out in the heat drains you. Yeah. Right. So we would take a nap. Then she like, you can play from 6 to 8. You can ride your bike from 6 to 8, but not until you get done doing everything else. I was going to the library in the summertime faithfully. She gave me a reading schedule, a reading plan on her own. You know what I mean? So it was ingrained in me, bro.
That's real. And your grandmother sounds so much like my mother, man. Like, my mom used to have this saying, you're going to always give 100%, right? And just like your grandmother said, like, if your 100% is a C, great. But you're going to give me 100%. Like, you can't even bring me a B if it wasn't 100%.
Right.
Like, if your 100% could have produced an A, then you produce an A. Right.
Facts.
And so I definitely resonate with that. And, I'm like you, man, like, all it took is for me to get in trouble a couple times in school, man, and have Janice Johnson come up there. And that was a wrap, bro. Like,
listen. And my grandma was known around the community. That's Mrs. Ty grandson. That was her married name, Mrs. Ty. That's Mrs. Ty grandson. So
okay, that's what's up.
Yeah, she's tough. She's still here, man.
That was my next question. She's still here. I know she's super proud of you and what you become.
She is, man. But I always think about Maya Angelou's quote when she said, "I come as one, but I stand as 10,000."
Woo! So powerful.
So every time I step on stage, every classroom, every school, every principal, every decision maker that brings me in, I'm saying I'm nothing but a mere reflection of those that have invested in me. And by far, my grandmother is, one of the pillars that invested in me. She did it when other people, didn't believe in me. When no one else believed in me, she believed in me.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
Yeah.
So now you're just paying it forward. Did you grow up in Trenton, New Jersey?
I did, man. Trenton, New Jersey, 7 square miles. About 90,000 students in the public school district. With a high school graduation rate that hovers around 70%.
Wow.
Out of the 70% that graduate from high school, only about 12% get the undergrad degree. And out of that 12%, less than 3% go on to get advanced degrees.
Wow. So you're in the top 3%.
Yeah, I grew up in the thick of it, man. 80s, 90s, I experienced the crack epidemic, the war on drugs. But no matter what was thrown my way, my grandmother always say to me, I don't care what goes on outside of these 4 walls. But if you grew up in this house, within these four walls, these are the standards and expectations. You will get an education as long as God gives me breath in my body.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, and she emphasized that, and she emphasized the importance of who I was spending time with.
Yep,
so
100%.
One of her sayings, and she kept saying it. Birds of a feather flock together.
That's real, man.
She'd always say to me, Reggie, be known by the company that you keep.
Ooh, very powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful words.
So if she would, my grandmother was on top of it. She saw me outside, she would peek through those blinds. And if she saw me playing with somebody that she knew I had no business playing with, she'd come to the front door and call me. I need you to come on in this house. You ain't got no business. You ain't got no business playing with him. That ain't nothing but trouble.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What'd you call your grandma? You call her grandma, big mama? What'd you call her?
Grandma. I was grandma. I said she just grandma, man.
That's what's up.
Just grandma. And what's crazy, man? I tell people, like, I didn't realize it till I was a grown man. I didn't realize my grandmother she's only like 5'3". Yeah, doc, she only 5'3", doc. She's only 5'3". I don't know why though. When I was 12 or 13, I thought she was like Medea, man. She was like this tall, strong, I was like, my grandmother to me was a thug. I'm like, listen, listen, and nobody messed with her. Like, I used to get a pass, in the neighborhood sometimes. They'd be like, that's Miss Ty grandson. Like, leave him alone. That's Miss Ty grandson.
Wow.
Like, people didn't bother her. They had respect for her, man. Respect and admiration. Because she cared and she stood firm in what she believed, man. And she believed that it was important for students to get education, for them to carry and conduct themselves accordingly. And she didn't negotiate from her standards, bro. She really didn't.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So we already talked about the fact that you played professionally as a basketball player. There's a lot of young people that look like us, right? That feel like they're the next fill in the blank. LeBron James, Michael Jordan, What would you say to young people that are watching us right now that think that their future is in the pros from a former professional athlete like yourself? What would you tell them?
Well, I mean, I think for me, just like a lot of kids that grew up in that era, this era, I had dreams and aspiration to want to make the NBA. I think I recognized in high school, I think I've always been a realist. I've never been one to think unrealistically, so to speak.
Okay.
So, I had goals of wanting to go to play at Duke University, that kind of stuff. I used to write it down, put it on my walls. But I think I recognized by high school, like, this is when Slam magazine was out, like the who's who. And I recognized I'm not in the top 100, so I'm probably not going to go to Duke. But I did recognize there was some talent. I recognized there was some God-given ability. And some of it wasn't just the skills that I was able to use on the court. Some of it was, I think, my mindset.
Okay.
Right. So I saw some people I was growing up with that had certain skills that I didn't possess.
Okay.
But their mindset was hindering them from ever being able to apply the skills in regards to basketball that could take them to the next level.
Sure.
Because I heard this from Nehemiah Davis. He said people don't often have a skill set problem. They have a mindset problem.
Yeah, that's powerful.
So when you think about a lot of athletes that don't make it, sometimes it's not because they lack the skill. It's because they didn't make the right decisions. Your decisions will always affect your goals.
Sure.
So I would tell whoever's listening that if you have the skill and you have the ability, pursue your dreams, goals, and aspirations, but at the same time, learn the business of it. Because if you don't make it as an athlete on the court, you still can make it as an agent. You can make it in sports. You can do orthopedic. If LeBron tore his ACL, he's not going to Anthony Davis. He's going to a doctor that specializes in athletes that tear their ACL.
Absolutely.
You can get into sports marketing. There's so much you can do on the business side of things where you still can be tied to the sport, connected to the sport, and still helping others. And yet you're still fulfilling somewhat your dream and your goal.
There's so many other moving parts that people don't even take into account when you actually watch an NBA basketball game, for example, right? Like there's just so many other things that you could be doing related to that sport, to that actual, performance that's happening on the court where they get paid well, whether you're talking about, like you said, the trainers, the PTs, the physical therapists, the doctors, all these people, like you said, LeBron, if he has a major injury, he's not only going to pay that person, he's going to pay them handsomely to get him back to
Absolutely.
his former level, right?
But again, that goes back to what I originally was saying, like with the mindset piece. With that, you still got to be able to discipline yourself.
Absolutely.
So there's a discipline that's involved in that. You got to have time management where you can study the art and craft of the sport. So when somebody calls upon you, like we're doing this interview, you can regurgitate stats and information and history.
Sure.
So you gotta have good study habits,
That's true.
So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not simply just watching the game and giving your opinion. You got to give an opinion, but also back that opinion up with some facts.
Right.
Which means you got to be a good student of the game. You got to understand how to read, how to write, how to articulate yourself, how to communicate effectively, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's real powerful. How long did you play professional basketball?
So in total, I did AIA. I played in the FIBA, which is Federal National Basketball Association. In total, 7 years.
Okay.
Between the summertime stuff and the regular season, 7 years.
So at what point did you realize, okay, my career is going to pivot and I'm going to do something different from basketball? And how did you ultimately get into your own business where you're speaking all over the U.S.? Are you speaking outside of the U.S. as well?
Not yet. No, everything's been U.S. based. Yep. Not
like how you said that. Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Speak it into existence, my brother, for sure.
So when I was playing professional basketball, once you understand the business side of things and you're no longer looking at it from an outsider, you're now on the inside.
Okay.
So I had recognized I'm living out my childhood dream and I love it and I enjoy it. But then when I recognized I actually wanted to have a family and I wanted to have a son.
Okay.
I recognized I was going to have a son. I was like, man, I want to be present for my son because my dad wasn't present for me.
Wow.
And that really had an impact on me psychologically and mentally because I used to struggle with the thought of my dad lived close to me. So, in the inner city, you have blocks. So I lived in a 100 block and my dad was just one block over.
Wow.
And even though we lived so close to each other geographically, we had no relationship.
Wow.
So I could walk to the local bodega and see my dad and it felt like I was seeing a stranger.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So, as an athlete, I was like, I don't want to have a child and for my child to feel the same way I feel about my father, maybe not because we have an estranged relationship, but because I'm not present.
I get it. Yeah, that's fair.
So I was like, I need to transition into something, but I had no idea what I was going to do with life after basketball.
Okay.
I went to lunch with a guy and we went to Fridays and he had became the state trooper. And I was shocked because growing up, there was black cops in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
but I ain't know him like that.
One of your boys, yeah.
Nah, he became a trooper. And I'm like, Brooks is cool. Like, he's still Brooks. But I felt like he was representing well in a space that most of us despise. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, at least from my context, like I felt like a lot of people despise, law enforcement. And he was like, man, listen, he was like, if we're going to be agents of change, then we need to figure out how we could become part of like the system.
Yeah, but represent.
Represent well. So man, he talked me into it. And I ended up transitioning basketball into law enforcement. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I transitioned into law enforcement. And then from law enforcement, I was able to go into the schools after a couple of years. And you know how you have the old DARE curriculum, right?
Yeah. DARE.
Yeah. So we went away from the DARE curriculum and we went to a different curriculum that was focused on character development and social emotional learning principles.
Okay.
And what happened was I'm just thinking like, when I saw the curriculum, I'm like, I could teach this. I lived this. I experienced this. What they had in this workbook, my grandmother had been teaching me this since I was a young buck.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, you got to set goals. You got to make responsible decisions. You got to be able to manage your emotions. You got to choose friends based on healthy qualities versus unhealthy qualities. This was like riding a bike to me, like second nature. Like, oh yeah, I could teach this because I understood that the curriculum embodied everything that helped me become the man that I am today, based on my grandmother implementing these principles.
Yes.
So I started teaching to fifth graders and then also going into the high school and talking to high school and junior high school students about it. But what started to happen was shocking to me. It was 10 lessons I would be teaching, one lesson per week.
Okay.
When I would get to the 10th lesson, I would go in and tell students like, all right, listen, this is lesson number 10. It's the last day I'm going to be in the class with you. They would be crying.
Wow.
They would be upset.
Wow.
They would be like, so I'm not going to have you again. Like, we're not going to see you anymore. Like, you can't be our teacher next year. You're our favorite teacher. We love you. Because I was going in teaching during what would be their health period.
Yeah.
So I was going in for a special, which would be their health period. And I'm like, man, like, okay, so I'm thinking this is just a one-off. But every time I would go in, it would be a handful of students that would come to me sharing the same sentiment that it was the best thing ever experienced, that it changed their lives, that it shifted their perspective.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, maybe God has called me to a context, to a certain demographic, and not necessarily race or ethnicity, but just to students and educators that I can help change lives. And then I started Reggie Wright Enterprise.
Wow.
And,
how long ago was that? When did you start Reggie Wright Enterprises?
February of this year.
Oh, wow. That's
Come on,
awesome,
Doc.
Man.
Come on, Doc.
Wow. That's amazing. That's really, really good, man.
Yeah. Yep. February this year. So I did a men's breakfast. That was kind of the first thing I did, but that was kind of just, I was filling in for somebody. But my first keynote was at Rider University here, a guy by the name of Dr. Reggie Walker. You probably want to get him on, Dr. Reggie Walker. Yep, over at Rider University, gave me an opportunity, and I'm forever grateful for him, man, because it was the beginning of something great.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you can't stop, won't stop now, right? Like you.
Nah, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to reach as many students and educators as possible, because I'm a living testimony, man, that the impossible is possible. I've grown up. So many people tell me what I couldn't be, what I wouldn't be. I wasn't good enough. But listen, my grandmother always tell me, like, know you're somebody, because God don't make no jump.
Ooh, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Your grandma had all the sayings, my man, for real. No, that's good. And she poured all that into you, and it shows. So that's really good. So let's say, and we know this isn't going to happen, but let's say we don't see or talk to each other for the next 5 years, and we're going into the 2029 school year. Where is Dr. Reggie Wright Jr.?
So I'll be still living between Atlanta and New Jersey.
Okay. That's nice.
And I will be the top youth speaker in the United States of America.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. Yep. And I'll be on a mission to try to help coach and teach others how to follow on this same trajectory, because I believe it needs to be, like we talked about offline, that village effect. We need to collaborate, right? I believe we need to reach back and help others. I believe that we all can win, we all can eat.
Absolutely.
So I want to see everyone thriving. I really do.
That's really powerful. Like, that says so much about your character. That's not a shameless plug for what you're doing, but no, that says a lot about your character. When I'm asking you, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Yeah, you talk about what you want to do, but you also talk about giving back and helping other people achieve the same. So that says a lot about you right there, my brother. It makes perfect sense what you're saying, because I started seeing probably like 3 or 4 months ago stuff from you on LinkedIn. And I'm like, okay, who's this brother here? Okay. Because I've been on LinkedIn a while, and so whenever I see a brother that's doing, or a sister that's doing really, really well, I like to follow them. I like to just kind of see what they're doing and where they are and where they're speaking and all that good stuff. And I've just been seeing a lot of really good stuff out of you. So yeah, I truly believe that everything you just said is going to come to pass, and you spoke it into existence, and I'm just going to double down on that. That's going to happen 100%. So yeah,
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. And so I'm sure there's people that are interested in doing what you do. Like, how does that work? Is it more word of mouth, or do you have like a very systemic way of reaching out to schools and universities and districts? How does that look?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, how it has been working for me is usually when I go into a school or a company, whether it's a nonprofit or even if it's a corporate event. I've had some corporations call me in. Okay. I really put a lot of time, energy, and effort into preparing. Okay. Right? And one of the reasons is I think about it the same way I process it as an athlete. Okay. So as an athlete, even though I understood that people weren't paying the same price for a ticket that they're paying to see LeBron, but they're still paying something. And to me, when people are spending their hard-earned money, they should feel like they're getting the best product possible.
True.
So, I always think back and I always use this example. Like if Kobe Bryant had an off night, to me, no one equated that off night to the fact that Kobe wasn't preparing for it.
Ooh.
It was just that he was human. And in our humanity, we're not perfect. And we're going to have an off night. But no one consciously or subconsciously thought Kobe had an off night because he was at the club last night. He was partying last night. He was chasing girls last night. You just felt like he just had an off. He just didn't have it tonight.
Yeah.
But you never questioned his preparations.
True.
That's the same way I want principals and decision makers in higher ed to think about me when I come into the school. It's like we know that if we give him an opportunity, that he's going to be prepared. I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to study. I'm focused. I'm driven. I'm passionate. I care. I want to be paid for the value that I bring. I want to be compensated. But I want them to know that, listen, as Martha Burke said, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Dude, I'm just sitting up here smiling because just hearing you say that, it reminds me so much of E.T. Eric Thomas, one of the great speakers out there as well.
Yeah.
And he said he was at an event and the guy said, we need you to bring your A game. He's like, A game? He said, I ain't got no B game, no C game. All I got is an A game. Like,
that's it.
Hearing you say that, like, just really made me think about that because basically that's what you're saying. If somebody hires me for their event, hires me to speak at their school, district, corporation, what have you, I'm bringing my A game 100%.
That's it. And I'm preparing, right? I'm preparing. Like I always tell my son, it's better to be prepared and never have an opportunity than have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Ooh, that's so powerful. So powerful.
I'm always preparing because I don't know when I'm gonna have an opportunity. But when I get an opportunity, I want to walk through the door and I want people to feel like when I leave, like he was prepared and he gave us his A game, like you just said.
100%.
I never want someone like yourself, a principal or decision maker, to feel like I took an opportunity for granted.
Wow.
Never. So for me, to answer your question, I've been able to get from February to where I am now as a six-figure speaker is really not chasing money, but chasing purpose. And when you have a purpose and you understand God has called you to do something, you prepare for it.
Absolutely.
I lock in, I focus, I study, I read. I remember listening to something by Zig Ziglar, and he said he would read and study 3 hours a day. My coach in speaking calls it the power hour, where literally an hour a day, you sit down and you lock in and you focus on what you have to do. I believe that that's been one of the keys because I always try to tell my son, like, distractions will kill dreams and goals.
100%.
Distractions will kill it. So I try to stay focused, stay the course and be patient and be consistent. So I've gotten a lot of what's called stage side leads. A lot of people will hear me speak at an event, and based on how well I do at that event, they'll book me based on hearing me in person, tell someone else about me, or reach out to me at a later date and time. So I do some lead generation. I do reach out to people in terms of marketing and stuff like that. But a lot of it's been like literally like word of mouth for people actually seeing me. Like somebody listening to this podcast.
Absolutely.
I want to bring that young man in and talk to these high school seniors, or talk to these freshmen that's transitioning from high school into college, or talk to the freshmen that's coming from junior high into high school, talk to the seniors that's leaving high school, transitioning to college, whatever the case may be. And that's kind of how it's been going for me.
I love it. That's really good, man. Another thing I loved about what you said earlier is the fact that we can all eat, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's enough. I feel like the universe is abundant for everyone. And just because you're getting your flowers doesn't mean it's taking away some flowers from somebody else. And I think, unfortunately, in our community, that's been a problem. And I just want us to really change that narrative about reaching out and helping and collaborating and paying it forward. Each one reach one, each one teach one. Like, that's super important, man. So, man, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show, Dr. Wright.
But what's crazy too, though, is when you think back historically and you think about all that Black people went through to pave the way for us to be where we are today. And how they were fighting to get an education. Right? People were lynched. They were hung because they were caught reading.
Isn't that crazy?
Right. And it's like, but now when you fast forward, and I understand like the educational system and what has transpired over time, but it's like, man, like I really try to instill in these students, like you have an amazing opportunity.
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
and the mind is a terrible thing to waste.
It is.
You know, and what's interesting is, and I always say this, like I took my son to, because you know I spoke down in Tallahassee for Charlie Ward at his foundation, and you know that was a Thursday, but that Saturday we went to the Florida State Miami game.
Oh, nice.
And my son came down there, and I'm like, man, you got 85,000 people cheering for athletes.
Yeah.
But what if you had 85,000 people cheering for scholars?
Wow.
What if we had that? What if we filled up a stadium of 85,000 people? Like, think about how that would psychologically change the mindset of a student and be like, man, these people are really celebrating my academic accomplishments.
Right. That's true.
You know what I mean? I saw Ricky Williams on an interview, and Ricky Williams was like, when he was playing like Pop Warner football, he quickly recognized something. He's like, when I would get an A or do well in school, no one really said nothing to me.
Right.
When they would hand the football off to me and I would score a touchdown, people would go crazy. So he was like, he recognized if I want to get people to celebrate me, I got to score touchdowns.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But what if we were celebrating each other for our academic endeavors?
That's real, man.
Like championing each other that way. Like, how much further would that help push the needle?
I love
you know,
that.
so like I got speakers in my house in the ceilings, right? When my son come home and he get a good grade, you would think he just won the Super Bowl.
Oh, I love that.
I celebrate. And he hit a 3 playing basketball. I clap. But when he come in and bring A's in here, I celebrate because I want him to know that I celebrate academic success equally, if not more, the way I celebrate athletic success.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
I'm still in that, bro. That was good.
I won't charge you for it. I won't charge you for it, Doc.
That was awesome. That's real, man. And we have sons that are very similar in age, and I'm going to start doing that because truthfully, you know, full transparency, I haven't been doing that. And my son's almost as tall as you. My son is 6'2". Yeah. You know, he's 13 years old and wears a size 14 shoe. And, you know, I think we celebrate that kind of stuff more. And look, that's God-given. Like he didn't get it from me. He got it from my wife's side. But I'm just saying, like, that's God-given. Like at the end of the day, you know, I would much rather him be the tallest, smartest, sharpest, fill in the blank, doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever, than athlete. And I'm okay if that's because I just know that being a professional athlete in this country with millions and millions of young people trying to pursue that goal is almost equal to winning the lottery. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you probably got a better chance of winning the lottery.
But even if you do, like when you look at statistics, right? I think statistics, I don't know if it's changed, but last time I remember checking, I think it's like 87% of professional athletes like file for bankruptcy or go broke, right? So even if you acquire the wealth, it still takes a certain level of education
to keep it. That's real.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no matter what, like if you're going to be successful in life, you have to have some level of intelligence, right? You have to some type of acquired education. That's like you have to, you know, and so I try to emphasize that with students because it's like I'm not saying somebody gonna get there. There's some kids that are gonna make it. Sure. But even if you don't make it in sports, you still can be thriving in life in some other facet if you use this.
That's real, man. I mean, you played professional sports. You did it for 7 years.
Yeah.
But you still had 50 years of your life ahead of you after you did those 7 years, right? You know? And
I saw so many people that when I was playing that made a lot of irresponsible decisions and have nothing to show for whatever they acquired. Wow. Over the period of their career.
Wow.
Nothing to show for it, you know? Right. And that's what I'm saying. Because I saw cats that came through, tried out with teams that were much better than me, but didn't have the discipline. So, you know, I saw players that came through that had an immense amount of talent, but they didn't have good study habits. So they couldn't learn the plays.
Yeah.
You know? Like, all those key factors, man, will derail you.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, when a team has to make a decision between two players that are equally as talented, they're going to probably choose the player that's going to have the best character.
100%.
right? Who's going to show up early, stay late, not cause problems, and to worry about you going out, getting high, all this, like, that's the stuff that make a difference.
That is so true. Yeah.
Character will get you through doors that sometimes your talent may not.
That's right. Well, I think character's definitely going to keep you in the room for sure, even if you get through the door, right?
Dennis Kimbrough says that our greatest asset is our integrity, man.
Wow.
You know, Graham Baldwin, his company has helped me, said that who you are is more important than what you do.
Ooh. Man, you dropping them numbers, man.
Come on, man. Let that sink in for the listeners.
Yes.
Come on. You know, and that's what I think about when I'm talking to students. That's what I think about when I'm going to schools to speak and stuff like that. You know, it's so important. These are the things I'm trying to instill in my son, because at 13 now he's getting to the age where I'm more coaching.
Yeah.
I'm more of a coach in his life, right? And I'm trying to coach him to win the game called life.
I love
that. And that's important for me because prior, Charlie was my mentor. I met Charlie 20 years ago, and Charlie mentored me.
Oh,
and
wow.
one of the greatest things about Charlie Ward mentoring me was he wasn't teaching me how to win the game on the scoreboard. He was teaching me how to win this game called life, how to be a champion in life.
That's powerful.
A champion in life. And, that's something that when you're 50 years old, when you're 60 years old, when you're 70 years old, that will still help you, be successful as a man, as a father, as a husband, so forth and so on.
That's powerful, man. So you have been great. I am so grateful and thankful that we connected. You have been dropping so many great nuggets to our viewers and our listeners. And, I just want to take this opportunity to honor you for what you're doing, for all the young people that you're touching, all the staffs that you're touching, whether it's at the college level, at the district level, at the school level. I started this show because I wanted to create this platform and provide a platform for amazing educators, amazing speakers like yourself that are really pouring into all these communities, no matter where they are in the United States and in the world. So kudos to you, and keep doing what you're doing. But before you leave, Dr. Wright, would you please leave our viewers with some parting words of wisdom? Tell us how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Oh, man. Excellent. Yeah. Anybody that's listening to this, I would say whether you're an aspiring speaker, no matter what you want to do, whether you want to be a doctor, an educator, an athlete, you want to be a neurologist, whatever the case may be, just stay the course. Don't ever give up. Opposition, adversity is going to come. There will be some challenges. There will be some trials and tribulations, as my grandmother said. But know that this too shall pass. If you just stay the course, you just remain consistent. It takes grit and it takes resiliency. It takes a certain level of passion that's sustained. And that could take months. It could take years. It could take decades. But the one thing you can't do is give up, because when you're called to do something, it too shall come to pass. So just stand firm in what God has called you to do. And if you guys would like to stay connected with me, you can follow me on Instagram. That's Dr. Reggie Wright Jr. It's the same thing on LinkedIn, Dr. Reggie Wright Jr. Same thing on YouTube, Dr. Reggie Wright Jr. And the same thing on Facebook as well. And my website, where you can find all that information, is www.reggiewrightjr.com. That's reggiewrightjr.com. Look forward to connecting with everyone. And Doc, thank you again for this opportunity. I'm so grateful. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I love connecting with brothers like yourself, man. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. It means a lot.
Likewise, my brother. The feeling is so mutual, and I really appreciate you. And don't worry, man, we're going to put all your information in the show notes, and we're definitely going to make sure that people are able to connect with you and reach out to you if they need you to be one of their speakers. I'm definitely going to connect you with my network. So get ready, my brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and all the best to you. And this won't be the last time that we speak and connect. All right, my brother?
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care.
All right. Much love, brother.